It is part 6 of the biggest what ifs in the theme park industry. If you have an idea for the next episode, leave a comment down below starting with the words what if. Let's start with Kababa. What if Magic Mountain was sold off? So for those of you who don't know, Six Flags Magic Mountain around 2006 actually almost got sold off. This was coming off the heels of a whole bunch of other events for the Six Flags chain. In 1998, they were purchased by Premier Parks. Premier then set into motion a very ambitious investment strategy and one that didn't really work. In 1999, they opened over 20 coasters across their parks, and in 2000 they did the same thing. After a failed attempt to sell the Six Flags chain in 2005 by Dan Snyder, he hired Mark Shapiro. Shapiro came into a really bad situation. To give you an idea of how bad of a state Six Flags was in 2001, their stock was going for $23.25, but in 2005, it was going for $5.46. This is one example of how Six Flags was struggling as a company. So it was during this time that they were exploring selling off Magic Mountain, one of their biggest parks. Theoretically, they could have gotten about $500 million for Magic Mountain. Mark Shapiro wanted to shift Six Flags to a more family-friendly business, and it was looking like the teen and coaster-heavy Magic Mountain wouldn't fit into this new model. So it was put up for sale, and there was actually a possibility that it wasn't going to be bought by a theme park developer, but a real estate developer in Southern California, kind of similar to what we saw with California's Great America recently when Prologis purchased that park. It was also possible that Six Flags could sell this park in a package deal with various other parks in the chain. This obviously didn't happen. They did sell a package of parks, but Magic Mountain was taken out of it. Alright, but the question is, what if someone had bid? What if someone had actually purchased Magic Mountain back in 2006? It seemed more likely that it would have been bought by a theme park operator and not a real estate developer. If the latter had happened, then the park would be over. There's no question about that. But if a theme park operator had purchased it, then it really just depends on which theme park operator bid. If someone like Herschend or Cedar Fair had bought it, I think the park could still be running well. I question some other chains like, say, Parques Reunidos. If the park had been kept up well and investment had continued to come in on a consistent basis, then Magic Mountain would still be a very profitable park. And Six Flags with that capital may have been able to pour investment into other parks. Granted, they were trying to sell it off to alleviate debt. I think Six Flags has a lot of problems, but Magic Mountain is a bright spot for the company, and it's a good thing they held on to it. And ultimately, I think Magic Mountain might be better off. Spoiler, this is going to be a Six Flags themed episode. Corral coasters. What if United Parks buys all of Six Flags' weaker parks thanks to the merger? A couple things off the bat here. Number 1, United Parks is Seaworld Entertainment. They changed their name pretty recently. Number 2, the Six Flags and Cedar Fair merger is officially complete. So what are the weaker parks in the new Six Flags chain? Well, California's Great America I guess is considered a weaker park since it's already been sold off to Prologis, so that one's kind of an interesting one. Then on the former Cedar Fair side, you have Valley Fair, which is a park that has some good coasters but doesn't get very much investment, and the same can be said for Michigan's Adventure. These parks up north haven't gotten major coasters in a long time. Now, Dorney Park in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and Worlds of Fun in Kansas City, Missouri are two parks that are on the weaker side but recently got new coasters. Does this mean more investment is going to be coming there on a consistent basis? I have no idea. Same question can be asked for Six Flags Great Escape. What was considered the weakest Six Flags park recently got a new coaster this year. Granted, it was to replace an old one that they had to remove. Rounding out what I deem as the weaker parks in the chain, we have Six Flags America in Maryland, Six Flags St. Louis, and you guessed it, St. Louis, Missouri, Frontier City in Oklahoma, and Darien Lake in New York. Though Frontier City and Darien Lake are just operated by Six Flags, they're not owned by Six Flags. So if we take out Great America because it's already been sold, Frontier City and Darien Lake, we're left with 7 weaker parks, and that's a lot to ask when it comes to United Parks buying all of those places. I don't think this will happen, but if it did, I think some of them might be better off for it. Michigan's Adventure, Valley Fair, Six Flags St. Louis, places that don't get major investments might see more of those come their way. And I think the parks might be prettier in a couple of years because Seaworld, even if they're not well themed, they do present themselves nicely. Would this be a good thing for Six Flags? Honestly, maybe. They could pour investment into the parks that they have left using the money they got from the sale because they would get a pretty significant amount of cash for those 7 parks. Would this be a good thing for United Parks? I'm not convinced of that. That is a big purchase. It would double the size of the chain. Now, you could argue that it's worked out very well for Cedar Fair when they bought the Paramount Parks in a similar situation in 2006. However, SeaWorld I don't think has the cash to do it like Cedar Fair maybe did in 2006. Okay, last question. Could this be good for the theme park industry? Yeah, I think it could. And the reason for that is competition. With so many Six Flags parks right now, I worry about the investment to some places because there's no competition. If United Parks were to grab a few of them, then the competition could go right back up. Stephen Boschers, what if Herschend still operated Six Flags Darien Lake? I didn't even know before doing research for this video that Herschend actually operated Darien Lake, but they did. Not only that, but the future was looking bright under them. They opened a kids area called Rowdy's Ridge in 2012 and added the boardwalk in 2013. Both these areas are considered some of the better ones in the park. During this time, in 2013, they also released a concept for a new roller coaster that would be called Lake Monster. This leads us to our fourth question, this one from Pat Mahonick. What if Darien Lake went through with turning Predator into Lake Monster? One of the theories with the Lake Monster attraction is that this would be an RMC conversion of the Predator wooden coaster, which is a Dinwiddie that opened back in 1990, and really, even though it got Titan Track recently, doesn't get good reviews. It was also proposed that this could have been a Gravity Group coaster. They said that this would be a 3,190 foot long inverting wooden coaster, featuring a 0G camelback, a hop reversal, a suspended corkscrew, and a wing over drop. I can see the theory for Gravity Group, but to me, this sounds like RMC. Of course, RMC was just a baby when this was being talked about and announced. In 2013, they had only built 2 roller coasters. So if they'd gone through and turned Predator into Lake Monster or added Lake Monster somewhere else in the park, I think Darien Lake would be a park that everyone would want to visit because they would have an RMC. I think the quality of this ride would have caused attendance to increase, and we probably would have seen more investments into the park in the following years, especially if Herschend still operated it. Going back to the first question, I have no doubt that this park would be better off today than it is because Herschend is an awesome theme park operator. There may not have been as many investments into Darien Lake as there have been to Dollywood and Silver Dollar City, but the investments that Darien Lake was getting under Herschend really was promising, and it's a bummer that things didn't work out. Alright, last question, and this one also involves Herschend and Six Flags. Memes RCT, what if Six Flags still operated Kentucky Kingdom to this day? This park has a wild history with more defunct coasters than operating ones. Currently, Herschend operates the park, and they have for a couple of years. Six Flags has played a big part in this park's history. From 1998 to 2009, they were known as Six Flags Kentucky Kingdom. But in early 2010, Six Flags announced that this park would close due to the inability to reach a lease agreement with the state fair board. This was absolutely devastating for a lot of people in the area, but good news, Ed Hart came and saved the day. He reached the leasing agreement that needed to be reached, and by the 2014 season, they were back and operational as an independent park. It's pretty amazing how he and his crew were able to get this park back open and running pretty strong out of the gate in 2014. In 2021, they sold it to Herschend, and they have been run by Herschend ever since. Despite this park's awesome history and awesome revival story, I think we can all agree that it would probably be better off if it hadn't been closed for 4 years. They had rides removed during that time, and I imagine that Six Flags would have continued to invest if they'd been able to reach that lease agreement in 2010. And so with that, we reach the end of episode 6 of the biggest what ifs in the theme park industry. Thank you all so much for sending in your questions, and if you have a what if question to be considered for the next episode, you can leave it down below in the comments starting with the words what if. I would also appreciate it if you gave this video a like and shared it with one person you know. So with that, until next time, thank you all for watching. See you then.